Donald Trump stooping to an ugly new low, even for him. He's making a claim that will be heard the world over, reviving an old and familiar and rather tired tactic of accusing a perceived political enemy of treason. Only this time, the subject was his first-term predecessor, former President Barack Obama.
The leader of the gang was President Obama. He's guilty. It's not a question. I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election.
He made that baseless, unsubstantiated, rather ludicrous accusation today in the Oval Office. It follows baseless, unsubstantiated claims from his Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard said that President Obama's officials engaged in a, quote, seditious conspiracy and hid evidence that Russia did not interfere in the 2016 election. Donald Trump's claims today, an accusation of a crime that is punishable by death, so outrageous that they drew this rare rebuke from President Barack Obama's office. It reads, quote, out of respect for the office of the presidency, our office does not normally dignify the constant nonsense and misinformation flowing out of this White House with a response. But these claims are outrageous enough to merit one. These bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. These findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee, led by then-Chairman Marco Rubio. The very same Marco Rubio, little Marco to Donald, who currently serves as Trump's Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. His report concluded that Russia conducted an influence campaign in 2016 to do this, quote, harm the Clinton campaign, tarnish an expected Clinton presidential administration, help the Trump campaign after Trump became the presumptive Republican nominee, and undermine the U.S. democratic process. That conclusion was further bolstered earlier this month when Donald Trump's current CIA director, a man named John Ratcliffe, released a review that, as NBC News points out, quote, did not refute the findings of the intelligence assessment that Russia sought to interfere in the election. Now, as for these wild and erratic and unfounded attempts by Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump to rewrite their own version of history and provide a distraction from the Jeffrey Epstein debacle that has completely engulfed Donald Trump and his White House. They are claiming that the Obama administration concealed evidence that Russia did not try to manipulate votes. But that's Orwellian doublespeak. It's not what Obama's officials ever claimed in the first instance. It was always about an influence campaign. Here was President Obama explaining it on December 16th, 2016.
I can assure the public that there was not the kind of tampering with the voting process that was of concern and will continue to be of concern going forward, that the votes that were cast were counted. They were counted appropriately. We have not seen evidence of machines being tampered with. So that assurance I can provide.
That is where we start the hour with ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut. Also joining us, staff writer at The Atlantic and a contributor to the Atlantic Daily Newsletter, Tom Nichols is here. And former DHS Chief of Staff during Trump's first term, Miles Taylor, is back with us. Congressman, let me start with you, and let me show you one more piece of sound. This is Tulsi Gabbard echoing the very same thing that President Obama says in that tape I just played to Joe Rogan.
When you're talking about like these Russian troll farms that you mentioned, what is missing from all of the news coverage around this and all of the outrage about how this foreign country is trying to influence our elections, which is wrong and which the American people need to be aware of, where this information is coming from, is the fact that and you're saying, why does somebody do that? Well, because this country does want to influence who we're electing, right?
Yes.
Like, we'd rather work with this person. We know that person is not going to be nice to us.
Congressman, your thoughts on this Rubicon crossing news cycle?
Well, that's a very different Tulsi Gabbard. That was Tulsi Gabbard before she was in the employ of Donald Trump and before she saw a political route to power and influence. And now, of course, we have a radically different Tulsi Gabbard. You didn't play, by the way, any sound of then Senator Marco Rubio, chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, who wrote and got a unanimous vote from Democrats and Republicans of an investigation of the Russian attack on the election, which, just as you have been saying, and just as you played Obama's saying, did not involve technical messing around with voting equipment, but did involve hacking the DNC and releasing emails. It did involve buying social media ads in the service of something that Marco Rubio's report said, which is that the Russians tampered with the election, not through the technical means, in the service of Donald Trump. But of course, now that Marco Rubio and Tulsi Gabbard are working for Donald Trump, reality has been inverted. And what troubles me most about this, Nicole, is that I'm standing in a spot that on January 6, 2021 was overrun by a violent mob intent on hanging the vice president and killing people like me. And it was all driven by a lie propagated by Donald Trump. And now we're seeing that playbook again. And my only question is, when people like Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump accuse an ex-president...
In a dramatic escalation of political rhetoric, former President Donald Trump has accused his predecessor, Barack Obama, of treason, a claim that has reverberated across the political landscape and drawn sharp rebukes from various quarters. Speaking from the Oval Office on July 23, 2025, Trump alleged that Obama led a gang guilty of attempting to steal the election in 2016, labeling it as treason, a crime punishable by death. These baseless accusations, devoid of evidence, echo a familiar tactic of Trump's, targeting political adversaries with inflammatory charges to deflect from his administration's controversies, notably the recent mishandling of the Jeffrey Epstein file release, which has engulfed his White House in scandal. Trump's claims were bolstered by his Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who asserted that Obama's officials engaged in a seditious conspiracy by concealing evidence that Russia did not interfere in the 2016 election. These assertions starkly contradict established findings. A 2020 bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee report, chaired by then-Senator Marco Rubio, now Trump's Secretary of State, confirmed Russia's influence campaign aimed to harm Hillary Clinton's campaign, aid Trump, and undermine U.S. democratic processes. The report detailed Russian efforts, including hacking the Democratic National Committee and deploying social media ads, but found no evidence of vote manipulation. Further corroborating this, a recent review by Trump's CIA Director John Ratcliffe did not refute Russia's interference, despite Trump and Gabbard's attempts to rewrite history. The accusations prompted a rare response from Obama's office, which typically avoids engaging with the constant nonsense from Trump's administration. The statement dismissed the allegations as ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction, emphasizing that no credible evidence supports claims of vote tampering or a conspiracy to hide Russian non-involvement. Obama himself, in a December 2016 statement, had clarified that while Russia's influence campaign was real, there was no evidence of tampering with voting machines, a point Gabbard once acknowledged in a past interview with Joe Rogan, before her alignment with Trump's narrative. This episode underscores a broader pattern of Trump weaponizing grave accusations against opponents, including former Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, and former FBI agents Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, all branded as traitors for prioritizing constitutional duty over loyalty to him. Congressman Jim Himes, a ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, speaking on the issue, expressed alarm at the dangerous implications of such rhetoric. Standing at the site of the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot, fueled by Trump's election fraud lies, Himes warned that accusing a former president of treason could incite violence from a tiny percentage of extremists, recalling the mob's intent to harm officials during the Capitol attack. Himes and panelists, including Tom Nichols of The Atlantic and former DHS Chief of Staff Miles Taylor, highlighted the judiciary's role as a bulwark against such overreach. Despite fears that Trump's Attorney General, Pam Bondi, might attempt to pursue these baseless charges, Himes noted that judges, including Trump appointees, have consistently rejected frivolous legal actions, often with derisive language. The panelists expressed concern that Trump's strategy, amplified by allies like Gabbard and Rubio, who have shifted to align with his narrative, aims to distract from the Epstein debacle, which has alienated parts of his base. As the nation grapples with this dark place, as Himes described it, the accusations against Obama seem destined to fade, much like previous unfounded claims, without legal traction. Yet, the cycle of conspiracies and deflections continues to stoke division, raising questions about the long-term impact on democratic norms and the safety of those targeted by such inflammatory rhetoric. The absence of a Department of Justice indictment against Obama, as Himes predicted, will likely shift the focus to Trump's next distraction, leaving the nation to navigate the fallout of his provocative playbook.